All right, greetings. Welcome back to Black Bear News, where everything is connected. What is going on, y'all? Am I on time or what? I'm on time today. And nobody is around to see that because everybody expects me to be 5 or 10 minutes late. But here I am. Good to see you all. Thank you all for hanging out with me every day. It's kind of cool. Got a pretty good crowd on YouTube and on Rockfin lately on the daily. Got some people on, some regulars on Callin now, which is great. On the Callin app, I'm actually enjoying the Callin app. I think it's a pretty cool addition to the show. It took a little while to get it incorporated. Yes, I know the sound issues are still a thing, and I don't know what to do about that, and I apologize, but we'll try. All right, let's get into it. Have something more of a succinct show together for you all today. It is already getting warm, but I'm not sure. I think that I've kind of handled or figured out how to handle my computer overheating issue. I'm going to knock on particle board and hope that I didn't jinx the show today, but I actually not only did I end up being able to finish the show yesterday, I was able to get some work done on some music in the middle of the afternoon when it was very, very hot in here, over 100 degrees in the studio, and I was able to do it. So that's kind of cool. Anyways, let's jump into it. Peter Dines, if you're 65 years or older, 75% of all the world's emissions have occurred in your lifetime through burning fossil hydrocarbons. The CO2 produced in that period will stay in the atmosphere for a very long time, with a half-life of about 10,000 years. That is that's science. I don't know. I've heard other people. I've heard actually, esteemed alternative journalists. Someone who I actually really enjoy their work and I really like them say stuff like, hydrocarbons aren't. There's an endless supply of hydrocarbons. Fossil fuels aren't a thing. They don't hurt the planet. I don't know what world you are living in when you can't understand, this is a picture of a, oil slick on fire, right? But, look at the billowing clouds of nasty, nasty crap, and I know it's just, I know it's an oil slick fire, but imagine this happening all over the planet, 24 hours a day for at least the last 100 years at, very high volume. Imagine, that can't have an effect on the planet. No, not in any way. And it's unfortunate because this dismissal without, contempt prior to investigation, there's a thing that goes out there that's like, climate change is a hoax, is a ruse. They made it all up, blah, blah, blah. And people dismiss even looking into it or understanding what's going on because it's a dismissal. Oh, ha, 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 climate change. They say these things are happening because climate, oh, ha, ha, ha. Right? But the joke isn't all that funny because it's based on ignorance. And, I don't know. I'm just, just hang out and watch my channel. I'm not really necessarily trying to say, you're just a stupid MFer. I'm just saying you're not really basing what you're saying on investigation, on science, on understanding the things that are happening. You just dismiss it, ha ha ha, and that is to your detriment. That's to your, that's not helpful to you because you are not understanding a very huge thing that's happening on the planet that could affect you and your family and your future and all that. But, anyways. Yeah, and I mean, somebody left a post on my channel yesterday that about, wildlife is attacking, people like a climate, because of climate change, sounding real CNN. I was, like, that came from a place of dismissiveness, not a place of trying to understand what's going on, right? Like, I read the article. If you had listened to the article, person who commented, the reason would have been explained to you, right? There are actual, extreme weather events for droughts, right? There's a drought happening in Japan. Animals can't get the nutrients that they regularly get. Their food supply is shortened, so they're wandering into cities. I mean, it's happening where I live. It's happening in my backyard. We have coyotes and bears that come down out of the mountains all the time looking for food. We have quite a few bears that come out. Their regular food supply isn't there anymore. And so they come wandering down into civilization looking for food, and it creates these confrontations. And to the detriment always of the bears, right? Bears are out there, people get scared, they call the cops come in. Sometimes they euthanize the bears. Sometimes they tranquilize them and take them back somewhere. Yeah, Judy Truitt. That's the thing. I understand it. People that have seen through the COVID debacle no longer believe the government when it cites climate change. I know, and that's a problem. That's an issue because they're not the same things. Wait, hold on. I want to go back here. CO2 only has a half-life of 120 years? Are you sure you're not talking about methane? I'm just wondering, because that doesn't sound... I thought the half-life of CO2 was quite a bit longer than... Methane is like, what? 20 years? 10 or 20 years? But I thought CO2 was longer than 100 years. But it'd be good to know. Either way, it's not, it's going to be it's going to be around for a long time. Yeah, it's just, it's the dismissiveness that is the problem, right? Contempt prior to investigation, but there's just such a solid wall of narrative in a particular I don't know what you want to call it, in a particular club, right? A certain club, that everybody repeat the line. So, and it's unfortunate it's just unfortunate. It's just, that ends up, being hurting people. And it also ends up, imagine how difficult it'll be to get if somebody wanted to mount like a political campaign or mount a political movement, to try and make things better. Imagine how difficult that'll be because, if they say they care about climate change, immediately they're going to be dismissed by a bunch of people who don't understand climate change, who don't understand what's going on because they've been, unfortunately, propagandized by alternative journalists. And then, if they deny climate change or don't do anything about climate change, the people that understand are going to be like, hey, hold on, wait a minute. It just, again, we're just heading into a barrel of confusion, and that'll be so much fun. But yeah, we've done a lot of damage in a very short amount of time. right? Oh, sorry. Hold on, people. Sorry about that. To my calling people, pardon me. Interglacial says CO2 will remain in the atmosphere 300 to 1,000 years. Yeah, I don't. I didn't hear the 120 year. No, I haven't heard the 120 year number before. But guess what methane breaks down into? CO2. Right? That's the thing that's a real goocher that a lot of people don't understand. And that really is like one of the bigger nails in the coffin of civilization is that, methane has a high it has a shorter time before it breaks down. But it has a very high heating capacity, right? So in a shorter amount of time, it'll do a lot more damage than CO2. And then when it breaks down into CO2. So just prolonging and continuing the damage, right? So that's always fun. Let's go on to the next thing. I talked about this the other day. I'm going to talk about it again because there was an article written about it. Rhine close to running dry and German energy nightmare. Rhine water levels at Kalb will soon make it impassable for barges carrying coal and gas imports. So this is going to impact their economy and the ability to generate power, all kinds of things. The ability for factories to run, a whole bunch of things are going to happen. Right. And so again, I'm sorry if I sound like a broken record. I'm sorry if I just keep, pounding on the same thing. But we're going backwards as far as, understanding climate change and education on climate change. And one of the big reasons we're going backwards is because the powers that be are being unveiled every single day for the frauds that they are. Rightly so. And that's the thing is, to the alternative journalists, even the ones that I'm banging on about climate change, like, in other places, in other areas of your expertise, you are doing God's work. You're doing really good work. You are really, I am on your side. I am in league with you. I am your compatriot in that endeavor. You just step in it every time you get to climate change. And I don't know. I'm just trying to. Oh, it's kind of awesome though, because I live in a lane where not a lot of people live in. And so the downside is that nobody wants to as soon as I get to a subject that that somebody doesn't like, and that's often, people just turn me off or unfollow me or tune me out or whatever, So that's the downside. On the upside, I think that I've really enlightened a lot of people, right? Because if you're preaching to the choir, you're not really, you know what I'm saying? If you preach to people who already understand the message and know the message and know what they're there to hear, you're not gonna, you're gonna change. You might change a few minds, but to really get into it, with people who don't understand what you're talking about at all vehemently, that's your opportunity to really change minds, right? If you can walk into a crowd of people that understand that, wholly believe the corporate narrative, the corporate media narrative, and change a couple minds in there, I'm happy to do that. I'm glad that that has happened. I've seen it happen. People told me, "Oh crap, I didn't even know any of this was going on." And hopefully I can do the same, for the folks, for the alternative media folks who don't understand what's going on with climate change. Hopefully I'm doing a little bit of the same for those people as well. Germany's Rhine River will become impassable for barges carrying coal, oil, and gas later this week in a devastating blow to factories upriver. And why did I just go on the tangent that I did? Because, you know, the narrative is that everything they're doing this. They're making this happen. This is a controlled demolition. Everything's and in some. I'm not saying it in that way to say that that's not happening on some levels, right? That there isn't some kind of intent by the powers that be to muck everything up. But there are other things going on, other real world things. Like climate change is actually doing some damage to our food supply, to our supply chain, to our ability to organize ourselves in the way that we have organized ourselves on the planet for the last 50 or 60 or 100 or years or whatever. We've had the ability to build this entire very complicated, very complex civilization up. And, climate change is going to start taking out the foundation of that very complex society. It's going to start kicking out the foundations little by little. And if you don't understand that that is what is happening, then you are going to be very ill prepared and very in the dark and very confused when suddenly comes upon you like, oh, geez. Well, this sucks. Not that knowing about it is going to make it any less sucky, but you might be a little more mentally or emotionally prepared. Interglacial Optimist says the largest nuclear power plant in Europe is a pre-positioned dirty bomb. And the Ukrainian army knows that if they disable it and it melts down, that radioactive plume will head into Russia. I never thought of it like that. But there are very real world things that are going on like this, right? Levels at Kalb, a key point along the waterway west of Frankfurt, are predicted to fall to below 40 centimeters on Friday, according to the German Federal Waterways and Shipping Administration. At that choke point, the river becomes effectively impassable for many barges, which use the Rhine to move a range of goods, including coal, oil, and gas. Water levels will then fall further to 37 centimeters on Saturday, officials warned. The river runs from Switzerland, no, don't say it like that, through France and Germany to the Netherlands, where it joins the North Sea. It is a vital supply line for several major companies, providing transit and plentiful water for engine cooling. A typical barge has the same capacity as more than 100 lorries. Rental rates for the vessels have soared as navigation becomes more difficult. That includes BASF, the German blue chip chemicals giant, which has a huge facility at Ludwigshafen. Okay, I can't even pronounce that. Electricity generator, RWE, and Swiss chemicals group Novartis. Last week, Uniper, one of Germany's largest gas companies, warned there would be an irregular operation at one of its coal-fired plants due to disruptions on the Rhine. So this is a multiplier of what is already happening, right? They're running out, they are facing shortages of gas and coal, and then they can't even run these power plants because the water level is so low. So there's several things going on. There's multiple things going on. It's not either or, it's, this and this and this and this. In 2018, a summer heat wave took Kalb levels to a record low of 25 centimeters, and which I covered back in 2018. In the autumn, taking 0.2 percentage point off German growth. Economists warn this year could be even worse. Deutsche Bank has warned this could deal a further economic blow to Germany, which is already facing a recession as Moscow squeezes gas supplies. BASF, which took a 250 million euro hit from 2018's low levels, has ordered a special barge adapted for low water levels. Steel giant ThyssenKrupp has put together a crisis team, which is meeting daily to monitor the situation, according to Bloomberg. The heat wave is also affecting other rivers across the continent. French energy giant EDF said last week that output from 2 of its nuclear power stations would be knocked due to high water temperatures, while the Danube, which slices from Central Europe to the Black Sea, is also drying up. There you go. So this is, yes, this is what happens when, climate change kicks in. It exacerbates already fragile, the fragile way in which our economy is, all tied together. It's quite fragile, right? And so if you multiply, economic forces and geopolitical forces and climate change forces, and you put all those together, then you do have some very serious issues coming your way. I can guarantee you that climate change will eventually become the biggest head of that monster. But right now it's just, it's baring its teeth a little bit. But people are still very, very asleep on, the future. We'll look at this from... All right, we'll take a call from Fan Thomas. What's up, Fan Thomas? How you doing?
Good afternoon. Well,
hey.
It does remind me the fact that we are cycling through the same thing over and over again, like, for lack of a better term, the Groundhog Day effect. And we aren't making any progress to get to the other people in terms of procedure and what we should be doing next. And there are no steps that we should be following. So now it's like chaos.
Right. Right. I mean, if we're just in a terrible situation because now nobody believes, the powers that be have very little legitimacy with a lot of people. Right. And so if they actually do try to do something that could be seen as a mitigation of, further climate damage, it is going to look like a ruse, right? And it's all going to come up short. And yeah, people are just going to be more confused all the way down, unfortunately. And
I was reading that to give you an example. I was listening to another show on call, and I won't mention the person, but very good broadcaster. They were talking for a half an hour, I shit you not, about Marjorie Taylor Greene and should we really trust her honesty? I was like, holy shit, are we really here? But we are. And the problem is that people want to hear that. They want to hear that.
Yeah.
And this mission accomplished, folks. Mission accomplished. We're now talking about personalities 24/7.
Right. And it does end up being, the funny thing about the political, talk landscape is that it is what's the word I'm just trying to look for? It is just a bunch of like gossip, right?
Yeah.
Not always. I'm not saying that, all the broadcasters are just, speaking about this person or that person, but it does end up being like quite a bit of just like gossipy type stuff. But, again, yeah, here's where we are. We're talking about Marjorie Taylor Greene and not, why is everybody so confused about climate change, or why is everybody so confused about what's going on, whatever. But
and then on the other side, that the article I sent you, which is just so crazy. The city in Saudi Arabia, they're talking to the developer.
Oh crap! Yeah, I saw that, but I actually didn't. I saw it like when did I see that? Last night, and I didn't have a chance to look at
Yeah,
it.
well, but you don't really need to look at it.
Okay,
I mean, you can talk about it another day. But
sure.
basically, he goes into in depth, like the guy just lets him rant and speak about what he thinks about how this city. First off, he thinks it's going to be a 100-mile city. It's going to be a vertical city in the desert.
Okay.
They're going to get their water through a process of desalination.
Okay.
I mean, so many things. It's going to be zero emissions. There's going to be 9 million people living there. And the first, I mean, it's so crazy.
Okay.
He just keeps going on and on. He goes like,
Right.
well, how do you intend to keep it cool? Well, it's going to be a mirrored city. A mirrored city? What are you talking about? The whole
What?
city's just going to be a mirrored glass.
Oh wow. Okay, sure. Right.
So I'm thinking about like how disconnected people are. But then I started realizing, I was like, this is the new environment talk. All you have to do is talk a bunch of nonsense and utopia constantly,
Right.
and just show some graphics, and people will believe you and not even fact check you.
Right. Right.
Um,
Or you know, people don't want to talk about. People don't really
Yeah.
want to talk about climate change. So it's it's a taboo. It's not a very pretty, sexy issue for a lot of people, right? Left and right. Like people really don't want to get into the weeds. They don't want to get into the nastiness of it. They want to, well, I bought my, my Tesla, or I got my energy saving light bulbs, and I, upgraded my stove and my refrigerator. These energy
Yeah.
save, I'm doing my part, right? So it's like, wait a minute, you are lost. You are lost in the sauce if you think, just doing the things, whatever, just updating all your gear, going out to the store and buying all the new goodies. There are a lot of people like that. There are a lot of people on the left like that. There are, a ton of people that are like, oh, what can I do? I think I read like a Twitter from some guy that lived in Portland. It was really hot last year. I don't know if anybody remembers this, but this guy like wrote a Twitter post, and he was like, well, I bought an electric car, and I upgraded all my appliances, and I'm I shop at Whole Foods, and what else can I do to save the environment? I was like, dude, why don't you learn something about it? What's going on? Like go a little deeper than that, whatever. I did say something to him, and I wasn't trying to be nasty. I said, I think you need to know a little more about what's going on with climate change, right? You're very on the surface, living very on the surface. Anyways.
People care more about loving a person, whether it's Trump, or hating a person. Well, you can't hate this person. You have to love this person. And to me, it's crazy, but because the fact is, again, it goes back to that personalities. We just want to talk about whatever the new personality of the day is. To talk about an issue is harrowing. To actually talk about and go through the steps of what we need to do and what we need to start doing right now.
Right.
And that's very, very difficult to get people on that page. And to me, that's where it comes into play, where there's going to have to be a total collapse of everything for that to happen, in my opinion.
Yeah, and until we get there, and that goes for not just climate change, but politically. I don't think nobody really has any answers politically. And like the thing I hear most, and again, there are people out there doing really good work in the alternative journalism, and I know that they face lots of slings and arrows every day in their quest to give people, what they feel is the truth. Right. And so again, that's why I'm very supportive of alternative journalism. And I'm not, if I ever speak negatively, I'm just kind of more, taking issue with certain points of view or certain ideas, right, that are being put out there. But, in the whole, I am, supportive of the alternative journalism landscape. But in the same landscape, in the same sphere, like there are no political, you can't have a political answer. It's almost, you're almost like laughed at, if you're like, I'm going to do something politically, even though, some people put forward ideas like, well, go out and do a protest or something, organize this or that. But it's very hard to say like, well, I'm gonna seek some kind of political, some answer to this political quagmire that we're in. It's very hard to actually have anybody, support you in that, right? Because people are like, you can't vote. There's no political answer to this. And I'm not, hey, I don't support Republicans or Democrats. Like, F them both. I don't think they're the answer. They're not going to help you. They're not on your side. They're not, going to fix anything. But, there's a lot of like lack of agency, a lot of just like, we're going to sit around and talk about how everything's going downhill until it's there, right? Until we're trapped. Like Gonzalo Lira, the tweet I posted yesterday, Gonzalo was like, that's it. It's a wrap. It's over. They're gonna screw the elections in 2022 and screw it in 2024. I'm like, I mean, okay, your point. I get your point, and I see where we're heading. But is that what we're gonna do? Is we're just gonna say that's it? It's over. It's kind of like this. It sounds a lot like climate change. That's it. It's over. We're done. Just lay back and let it happen, right? And like, oh, all right, I guess okay. Is that how we're going to deal with the situation? Is that how we're going to go down? Just going like, I told you we were going down. Oh, wow. Well, that was certainly brave of you to tell me that we were going down. It's not, like where, the solutions I think have to be, it is brave to say, things that nobody wants to hear, but it's also, well, there's a lack of, I don't know, teeth in that. Anyways,
I hear you. I'm going to step down because you have many other callers.
Oh, I guess I do.
Yeah. All right. I'll talk to you later.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Bye.
I guess we got a lot of callers, so I'll take some calls. How you doing, William?
Kev, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Oh, yeah. Right on with your last caller. It's interesting. All you got to point to is the people you would think be the last person to validate climate change, like Rex Tillerson. You know what Rex Tillerson said about climate change? Or should I say?
No, I actually don't know. What did he say?
Well, don't forget, he was CEO of Exxon, right? Then he was Trump's first Secretary of State. He said climate change is here to stay. He validated it. He said that we were just producing a product that was in demand. That was his kind of, dismissal of, well, Exxon isn't really liable for anything,
Yeah. Yeah.
And,
I vaguely remember him saying that. No, that's fine. I vaguely remember him saying that. But yeah, I mean, all the oil CEOs, they all, they know what's going on. And
they've got a lot of scientists.
They know we're screwed.
And they've got a lot of scientists they've been employing since the 50s. Right. They knew. They have internal documents that have been, released due to FOIA requests. But the other thing is, remember when Trump was did this big push on purchasing Greenland? Remember when that was happening?
That was interesting. Okay. That was actually very interesting. That was an interesting idea. Right.
Think about this. There was known permamelt frost, right?
Yeah.
They were having some problem with some pipeline supports for that reason and roads.
Right.
Well, Greenland is a vast resource for, essential oil, minerals, et cetera, et cetera. Right. Now, with the permafrost, it's hard to get to that material, so they do a lot of alternative energy there.
Right.
But it's expensive to drill through permafrost when it's, as thick as it is.
Sure.
But if it's melting, and they know it is, let's try and buy Greenland.
There wasn't, Trump, again, and when he did that, was saying the quiet part out loud. He was admitting, he was admitting like, well, we're going to have to get some of these, he out and out said we want Syrian oil, we want Venezuela's oil, we want, we want to buy Greenland because there's minerals and oils and shit up there, and we're going to, we want to be in a position to, why not just buy it now before, avoid the rush because, because eventually, Canada and the U.S. and Russia are going to fight over who owns Greenland, right? Or, whoever.
That's exactly right. You also have the issue of the shipping lanes through the Arctic that are going to open up or have started to open.
Right.
So that would be a strategic place to have military, base and et cetera, et cetera.
Absolutely.
I know you got other callers.
Yeah. Thanks, William.
Can I finish with this just to plant the seed on what we call the feedback loops, the methane carbon dioxide feedback loops, which I'm sure you're aware of, the thermohaline, deep current system, the jet stream, the conveyor belts, and how that all, God put this plan together miraculously, and it was working great for a long time.
Right.
And man's come along. It didn't take very long. Look where we are.
Right. Yeah.
And the sink effect, which you probably know about the sink effect, when we're producing 36 gigatons of carbon dioxide and the Mother Nature's,
sucking it
capable
up.
of absorbing a fraction of that, like 12 gigatons, or maybe it's up to 15 now, depending on the forest coverage and the greening of the planet. But the bottom line is that's why it's like a checking account. You put in more CO2 and nitrous oxides and methane than you can draw out. What do you think is going to happen?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well,
anyway,
yeah, exactly. And Dre Guy just said, thank you, William. I appreciate it. I'm going to take another call.
Yep, God bless.
And Dre Guy said, just said something in the chat about carbon monoxide, right? It's like, burning fossil fuels is not just CO2. There's a lot of other crap and filth that comes out with, it's pollution, right? So it's like, it's silly, the argument that, CO2 doesn't do anything. CO2 is plant food and blah, blah, blah. It's like, it's not just CO2, bro. It's not, there's a lot of other stuff. Anyways, I'm going to take this call from Jenny. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm all right.
I'd love to see the conversation move away from whether or not climate change is actually happening to, okay, we accept that it's happening. What can we do to live with it and or fix it?
Yeah. Well,
and you say you're moving towards, the collapse and what comes after. I belong to a religion that teaches me that the earth is going to warm and move back to a garden state. And that in the beginning, the world was just one big landmass. And it says in the Bible, during the days of Peleg, the earth was divided. So the continents were divided. My faith teaches me that those continents are going to come back together again into one landmass. And we are going to go back to a garden state. And so I don't look on climate change as being alarming. It was prophesied. And so the question is, how can we help the earth, nurture the earth to be cleaner? It's definitely polluted, but how can we get it cleaner? And then learn to coexist with nature in a garden state. And so that's where my heart is. I don't walk in fear of everything melting and the coasts going underwater. I think at one point the coasts are going to become one landmass, so it's nothing to be afraid of. But that's just, my religious view.
Got it. Well, I mean, to get to your point about, tending to the earth, right? Living more in balance with nature, and I'm a fan of that. Right? So anybody who has that intent or has that in their heart, I think that's a good place to start, right? And
are you a dad?
I am a dad.
Because one of the things my husband and I felt passionate about was doing everything we could as our children were little to kind of model what that looked like. Mm-hmm. And so I breastfed my kids instead of bottle feeding. Mm-hmm. We use cloth diapers instead of plastics.
Mm-hmm. We do the same. Yes.
Yeah. And just, these things that are so simple, but they really do help with the amount of trash that's generated.
Sure.
I also cooked from scratch a lot and bought my foods at the bulk food store and farmers markets, and we grew it ourselves.
You're already doing it. You're already living, you're already living that much closer, right? To not.
My kids are all adults now. 3 of them are married. I have 2 grandchildren, and they're continuing on with this attitude. And so I think, if you really want to be authentic, you have to model it for your family, for your friends, and walk the walk, And
absolutely.
Then we all get into a more proactive space. And really where I part company with so many of the climate change alarmists is that I don't think we need to do the draconian measures to compel and force companies and people to, just buckle down and do things that really hurt them. And so
Right.
I don't think we need to communize the world to save it.
Yeah, I don't, the answers from on high are going to be, it's just going to be difficult to solve that politically. So, it may end up being the only way to really, the best you can do is do a personal, do the best you can on a personal level, right? And model, as you say, model it. And,
do you ever see us moving to free energy?
I don't know. I don't know if I see that or not. I mean, I don't know what you mean by, I mean, our technological capabilities are growing by leaps and bounds. So you never know. I just, I am a never say never kind of person. So,
because I really
who
think
knows?
if we could pull away from, obviously, from the gas companies and our dependence on oil, and set up an infrastructure that relies on the technology that does exist to create free energy, that would change everything.
Yeah.
It would just change everything. And I think we could get there, and we could use political means to help set that up.
Well, the only way, if we're really gonna make an impact and not go, not do more damage to the planet, we are gonna have to do something in an organized, collective way, right? Collective meaning, the powers that be and the people are all going to have to be on the same page, right? And there's going to have to be a political answer as well as a personal answer. I just don't know if there's going to be a political answer soon. But Jenny, I'm going to have to let you go because I have a couple of minutes to finish the show. But thank you for calling
Thanks
in.
for
I appreciate
taking my
it.
call.
Yeah, thank you. All right, cool. Got some good calls in. I'm going to. Let's see, where are we at? Oh, just showing you this one last graph, climate change, and I think I'm going to jump off of YouTube and finish the rest of the show on Rockfin. From extreme temperatures around the world, this is heat in Europe. It's very hot in Europe. Has been very hot. This is from yesterday. European heat wave. Today it was a historic day in Atlantic France and Cornwall with more records broken, and France's highest temperature was 41.5 C. That is very warm for France. At Navarinx, I guess I don't know how that's pronounced. Incredible all-time record beaten again at Ile-de-Dieu. Ile-Dieu, I guess that is, with 36 C. So record-breaking heat. Over and over and over. It's not just one day. It's not just the one day. It's many days. So something obviously is going on. Monthly record at Belle Ile, again with 34.5 C. Anyways, it's very warm. Something clearly is happening. Let's see. Yep, I'm gonna jump off of YouTube. Thank you to the YouTube people for hanging out with me. I'm gonna finish the show on Rockfin, and I will see you all tomorrow.